says, Shimmy says, Shimmy, Shimmy, Shimmy says, ask me almost anything.
Hey everyone, it's Shimmy. Thanks for joining me for another Shimmy Says. I apologize. I was on my way home from being out on the West Coast all week, and I wasn't able to do my usual Thursday live Shimmy Says. But I felt what I wanted to say this week was important enough that I'm doing it here on Friday. And let me just state from the outset, what I'm talking about today is actually taken off of an article I put up this morning on Techstrong.it. This is a very personal one for me, and I hope you'll bear with me because I'll probably struggle to get through it, to tell you the truth. But I do want to get through it, and I think it's important. I think it's important for all of us to take to heart. Yesterday was the 24th anniversary of 9/11. And, for a lot of you people out there, if you weren't alive, and I realize a lot of you weren't alive for 9/11/01. And so, it's about what you heard about in history books or saw on TV or what your parents or friends, relatives have told you. But for those of us who were alive, for those of us who were part of it, who were unfortunately touched by it, it is a defining moment in our history, in our lives. For my family, probably a little more personal than for a lot of you folks out there. My wife lost her oldest sister on 9/11 in the towers. And for the last 23 years, this being the 24th anniversary, for the last 23 years, her sister, the rest of the family, they go up to 9/11 ground zero every year on 9/11. And they watch the procession and the dignitaries speak, and it's become both a celebration and grieving of what was lost. And so 9/11 will always is a scar for my family and for many families out here. We're not the only ones, obviously. And as I said earlier, for all of us who were alive and lived through that, it was a defining moment. We always know where you were when the towers fell. But here's an interesting thing about 9/11. On 9/12, this country came together like it hasn't come together in my lifetime. I grew up a child of the 60s and 70s, the Vietnam War, the poverty, civil rights movement. We were never really totally together, let's say, though I think during the 80s and 90s, things definitely got better. But 9/11 brought this country together, I bet, like nothing has since maybe Pearl Harbor. As a country, and I wrote it, it's written in my article. I put a lot into this article, and, we came together like no time, we were one nation, indivisible in grief and in purpose. George W. Bush, the second Bush, he was very eloquent and he was very inspirational during those times, and God bless him for it. But it really brought the company together. Unfortunately, it didn't last very long, as we've come to find out. And while my wife Bonnie was on her way to New York City on Wednesday to be there for Thursday, I'm out in Napa Valley at the JFrog SwampUP conference, and all of a sudden the breaking news is, and my phone's blowing up with very different news, right? First of all, yet another shooting at a school in Colorado, 3 dead. Parents losing children, families shattered. And then, of course, the shooting of Charlie Kirk out at a college in Utah, of all places. Now, I'm not here to get into the politics of Charlie Kirk or empathy or anything else. I don't really care what Charlie Kirk's politics were for this. The thing about it, there was these tragedies that we lived through. Before Charlie Kirk, it was the Minnesota state legislature woman and her husband who were brutally murdered. because of their views. How many school shootings do we have, and we just think of them as, yep, just another school shooting, thoughts and prayers. And like we can't do anything about it. They pile on top of one another. And instead of pulling us together like 9/11 did, as one country, with one purpose, with one humanity, we're all humans. Instead, these horrific attacks and violence, it pulls us apart. It makes us more divisive as others. You know, as I wrote in my article, we don't share collective grief. We litigate sorrow like partisans keeping score. And that's not what it's about. It's not that your loss is better than or bigger than my loss, or my loss is better than your loss, right? Some tragedies spark nationwide mourning while others barely register. An old man, Pelosi's husband, gets beaten with a hammer. People laugh about it. What's funny about that, right? And so I'm not here blaming one side or the other, because really at the end of the day, this isn't about blame. It's about where is the humanity, regardless of what side you're on, and where's the humanity? And let me just say, this whole thing caused me to look at my own views, because I'm guilty as much as the next one. What about it? What about? But at the end of the day, it's not what about. It's not about what about. It's about what divides us versus what unites us, and who we let divide us. Now, at the same time all this was going on, I'm out in Napa Valley spending 3 days with my friends at JFrog, as well as folks from NVIDIA and ServiceNow and Sonar and so many other companies. I don't know, 300-400 people out there. And you know what? We're just talking about AI. We're talking about building better software, more secure software, allowing us to do things that we seemed phantasmal only just a few years ago. You know, people from around the globe come together with a shared purpose of building tools, solving problems, imagining a better tomorrow. And you know what? Nobody cared who voted for who, what bathroom someone used, or what pronouns they used or whatever. It was really just all about the tech. And you want to know what? That's what originally attracted me to technology. It's because in technology, I really believed it was a meritocracy. It's about how good can you code? What great ideas can you come up with? Everybody in tech got into tech because we think that tech is really cool, and in some way, the technology we work on changes the world. It makes the world better. Every startup entrepreneur I know feels that way, and most of the people in tech I know feel that way. It's that spirit that I've always had pride in around tech. It's that spirit. But contrasting that with the reality of what we see, it blows me away, right? Is it human nature that we just divide into tribes? Are we just truly still a tribal animal, slightly better than the apes, and it's always us versus them? So I started really thinking about this, right? I started really thinking about this in terms of AI. You know, and there's an irony here. The irony is, we're trying to make AI more human. We want AI to act more like humans. We want AI to act with empathy. We want AI to act with human-like intelligence. Well, while we're training AI to do that, we ourselves don't act like that. Maybe there's a lesson. Maybe we should, instead of making AI more human-like, try to make ourselves more human-like. Try to make it as a mirror, because in some ways there are things that technology and AI does that are much more that we need to emulate. We need to make decisions not based upon whether you're red or blue. We need to make decisions that are for the common good. We need to have more empathy. We need to have more humanity. Instead of trying to make AI more human, let's make ourselves more human. So where do we go from here? You know, I really feel, and it was brought home to me while I was out at SwampUP, we're on the precipice of just amazing things. When you look at what AI is doing, when you look at what the internet and everything has already, technology's already brought, and quantum coming on, we can solve some of our greatest problems that have plagued us forever, right? We could bring opportunity, health, and dignity. We could change so many things, but only if we don't kill ourselves first, because our technology is not going to stop a bullet. It's not going to comfort a grieving parent who lost a child. It's not going to parent an orphan child who lost their parent. It can't rebuild trust that's been shattered by hate and violence. We have to do that. But instead, we treat life like a zero-sum game. Whoever dies with the most marbles wins. But that's not life. Life's not a contest. The great thing about technology, the great thing about the Industrial Revolution was that instead of just giving people smaller slices of a one-size pie, we've been able to grow the pie. And that's what we need to do. We need to grow the pie bigger so that everyone has a slice, that everyone has dignity, that everyone can live with this. We have to look at our technology not as just tools, but as a mirror that reflect the best of us, not the worst of us, our collaboration, our creativity. What if AI's pursuit of empathy taught us to rediscover our own empathy? What if quantum's process of parallel processing reminded us that multiple truths, multiple lives, multiple futures can coexist? So my call out to you is this. Let this week and the craziness of this week and these past few months in the world we're living in right now, let this serve as another 9/11 moment, a bookend, to say, at the end of the day, we're human. We shouldn't celebrate someone getting killed or shot violently like that. We shouldn't. Let us realize we have more in common as humans than the lines that divide us. I'm not saying technology alone will heal all our wounds, but it can be a bridge. It can give us an opportunity to live longer, healthier lives. And ironically, technology can remind us what it means to be truly human. So I want to get to my end in here. So let me just end up with this, right? And I'm speaking now for all of us at Techstrong, not just myself. Violence is never the answer. It wasn't the answer today. It wasn't the answer yesterday. It won't be the answer tomorrow. It's never going to be the answer. As I said earlier, most of us are in the tech space because we believe technology can make the world better. And that's just not just a tagline, it's a responsibility. We in the tech space have the opportunity to lead and make this world better. I believe it. It's our job. And if we can do that, as I wrote in my story, maybe the best of times can outweigh the worst. Peace. That's it for Shimmy today.
Shimmy says, shimmy says, shimmy, shimmy, shimmy says, ask me almost anything.